Hello everyone! Today I'm going to be showing you how to get more players on your farm. But be careful what players you choose because more players make things easier, but more idiots make things worse. It's actually quite easy to make this happen as long as you're the least bit familiar with installing mods. The most amount of people I've had on a farm at once has been up to 18. The game was kind of buggy and crashy at that point. The consensus seems to be that 13 people or less is quite stable. I will of course post a link to all the mods needed in the description below, as well as a link to a video on how to install the mods. Even if you don't necessarily want to add more players than the maximum to your farm, you can actually use this mod to simply add more cabins to your farm. Those can either create more space on your farm, or you can just use it for other players to come and go as they please. That way you don't have to delete someone to bring someone else in. At the very least, this mod will give you options. When I attempted this idea on the live stream, I built a total of 20 cabins. I was aiming for a maximum of about 12 or 13 people, but that way if someone crashed or had to leave, someone could just join the game. It's that easy, don't have to delete anyone. One issue we did seem to run into is that if more than one person has the unlimited players mod, if another player's limit is set to higher than the host's, it can cause more people to get into the game and cause crashing issues, so don't do that. The first and most important mod you're going to need is unlimited players. Following the link in the description, it should bring you right here. Now, just like with any mod, it doesn't hurt to read everything about it, that way you understand what you're getting, how to make it work, and what not to do. But if you're anything like me, you like to break the game and make a mess. So click right over to files, find the file you want, which is usually going to be the top one, is going to be the most updated, but keep in mind sometimes they change, sometimes there's a beta version for the multiplayer, one for the old version. Just pay attention to what one you're downloading, that way you understand you're getting the right one. Now, one thing that is a little bit different with this mod is that once you download it, it's a zipped file, so you have to unzip it, at which point you're going to be left with these loose files. You're going to have to put these into a folder before you can use them, which is kind of annoying, but pretty simple to do if you know how. Basically, once you have it unzipped, it'll look something like this depending on what program you use. Just make a new folder. Just right click your desktop background, go to new folder, call it whatever you want. And there we have my folder, at which point you're going to want to go ahead and drag the 3 internal files that you unzipped and put them in folder. Now this is going to be your mod. You probably actually want to name it Unlimited Multiplayer or something to that effect. And then at this point, this folder is ready to be dropped straight into your mods folder, and away it goes right to work. But also, it's within this folder that you change the amount of players you can have on your farm. Opening it up, go to the config, which is obviously how you configure it. You have one option, player limit. You can change this to whatever you want. Like I said, anything above 12, 13 seems to get a little buggy. I've had as many as 18, but the game would crash, but we did have conflicting mods at the time. So try it for yourself. But consensus is 12, 13 people is okay right now. The next mod I want to take a look at is a very simple one. It is the multiplayer speech bubbles mod. You probably noticed it earlier in the video. Here it is on display again. It's very easy to install, even easier to use. Basically all it does is puts what the person's saying above their head in a text bubble. That way you can see who's saying what in real time. This one is by no means necessary, just makes it a little simpler and easier and clearer as to what's going on and who's doing what. Next is a mod that has a little more practical application and is very useful for situations like this where you have so many players in your game. That is the more multiplayer info mod. Basically what it does is gives you a list on the right side of everyone in your game. You can scroll through, see who they are, even gives you their appearance so you can know who's who, because it gets really confusing really fast when you have this many players. Also, when you try and go to bed at night, it tells you who's not in bed, so when there's that one idiot who's not in bed causing everyone else to pass out, you know who it is each and every night and you can yell at them accordingly. Beyond that, you can get more information. If we want to see a little more about Julio Maculio, we simply click on their name. It tells you what tools they're holding, what items they're holding. It even tells you their skills, if they're online or not. That way you know if they're offline, if it's worth blowing up their cabin to take their stuff. Unfortunately, Julio Maculio isn't very good at anything, so she doesn't have anything worth taking. Now you can go a little deeper in, configure mod settings. You can show their inventory, info, text box, last player alert, hide in single player, show cutscene alerts. So it gives you some flexibility on how you use it. So you can just go through your list, seeing what everyone has. Mama Joe's obviously packing some ancient seeds and quality fertilizer, so she may be a good candidate for blowing up her cabin and taking her stuff. I'm far too lazy to bother with any of that stuff though currently, but you get the point. This mod just allows you to see a lot more of what the players have, what they're doing, if they're sleeping, everything you need to know really. The final mod we want to talk about today is called RoboRobbin. Basically, this is just a really fast way of putting cabins on your farm for your helpers to occupy. Following the link I provided, it will bring you right here. All you do at that point is download the zipped file. Once it's done, believe it or not, you open it up. Pretty straightforward. It'll look something like this. Again, depending on what program you use. RoboRobbin, open it up. Basically, the file you're looking for is the exe. As always, that's the one that executes and opens. Once it's opened, it'll look something like this. It gives you the options, press open save and choose your save game. So, open save. Then you got to pick which one you want to add cabins to. Obviously, if you have a bunch of the same names like I do, this could get confusing. Pay attention to the dates though. The dates are generally what I go by because I have 6 DF files, so which was my most recent one? Well, obviously the most recent date was my most recent one. So once I open that up, there's a few options. There's old saves. Just go to the one that's most recent once again. It'll open. And once it does, it's very crudely going to look something like this. This one is a little rudimentary, but it does work quite well. So you want to add something to your game, you simply select new log cabin, new stone cabin, or new plank cabin. We'll add a new log cabin. Then you actually just use the sliders to put where it's going to go. Now, the pink things are actually existing cabins. This one's obviously single. These longer ones would be 2 side by side. So you just move the sliders to put the new cabin where you want to put it. And it just instantly builds a cabin. That's all you have to do. You don't have to go to Robin, spend the time and resources to make it, and wait 3 days. These are instant. Just be careful where you put them. Keep in mind the front door needs to be clear for players to get out. So just like that, I placed this cabin right here using the sliders right here. Now, the strange thing to add the cabin, basically you can either just go to right save to save it where it is, or if you want to add another one, you just select, say, new stone cabin, and then you adjust the slider again, and it's basically going to slide off the existing cabin. You'll see it pop up right here in just a sec. It's slowly making its way out. A little more, and a little more. And that one should fit right there pretty nicely. Because this is actually a barn, that's why the size looks odd. Make sure the cabins aren't overlapping each other or you're going to have issues. Make sure they're not into the debris. The debris isn't the end of the world because you can actually clear it afterwards, but do be careful with where you're placing the cabins. You can run into issues if you put them in weird spots. Make sure they're open space. It does give you a layout of what's open and what's not. So obviously I could lay a cabin right here pretty easily. So then I also want to put a plank cabin. I'm going to put it way over here somewhere on the other side beside the pond. There it is, just like that. That looks clear there. So there we go. Now I go to right save and it's done. Those new cabins are installed that quickly and easily. Another thing I want to mention is that if you have more than the maximum 3 typical players on your farm, don't go to the social menu and look. That can crash the game. Avoid looking at that. It's not necessary anyway. Don't do it. Also, link in the description to Kira's video on the subject. She's the one who figured it out first, did it first. She's the one who helped me put this together, taught me how to do it. So go check that out. Give her some support over there.